Los Angeles just finished locking in its rookie class, but the real work behind the scenes starts right now. Tuli has to be secured. A veteran pass rusher might be slipping out of the plan. Herbert is already getting dangerous signals from Mike McDaniel, and Omarion Hampton just heard a comparison that is way too heavy to brush off. The AFC loves doubting the Chargers. Good. Today the answer comes with facts, pressure, and a real locker room read. If you feel this turn coming, hit that like button. Look at the size of the responsibility sitting on Joe Hortiz and Jim Harbaugh's desk right now. The roster is basically built, the rookie class is signed, most of the shopping is finished, and that is exactly when a lot of franchises start getting comfortable. The Chargers cannot get comfortable, because when the last piece on the list is Tuli Tuipulotu, that is not just front office paperwork. That is defensive identity being negotiated before the field even starts talking. Aaron Schatz from ESPN put his finger right on the pressure point. The biggest move left for Los Angeles is extending Tuli. And honestly, how do you push back on that? He turns 24 on September 3rd, led the Chargers with 13 sacks in 2025, added 70 pressures, and forced 2 fumbles across 16 games. That is not some cute future promise to throw on an off-season graphic. That is production right now, with room to keep growing, on a defense that just watched Joey Bosa leave and Khalil Mack, as respected as he is, reach the stage where the team has to start planning for what comes next. And the behind-the-scenes read is what really gets me. The Chargers entered free agency with major cap space, but they did not spend like a desperate team. They strengthened the offense with Tyler Biadasz, Cole Strange, Keaton Mitchell, Alec Ingold, Charlie Kolar, and David Njoku. They brought in Dalvin Tomlinson to add weight against the run. Derwin James already got that massive deal, 3 years and $75.6 million, putting him back at the top among safeties. So the question becomes impossible to ignore. If you protected flexibility, if you built with calculation, if you still have more than $41 million available, what is that power for if not protecting your pillars? Tuli could cost north of $25 million per year. Yes, that is a serious number. But what is really heavy is letting a productive, ascending 24-year-old edge rusher walk into the final year of his rookie deal with noise in the air. Then you open the door to a hold-in, distractions, a rising price, and another team watching from a distance with a smile. No, the Chargers have spent years being challenged to turn talent into structure. Now the structure is sitting right there, waiting for a signature. The future defensive duo has names, Derwin James and Tuli Tuipulotu. If Los Angeles wants a new era, it cannot treat the best young pass rusher in the building like a problem for later. And when you look at Tuli as a pillar, the next story hits differently, because it gets into the colder side of the business. Who still fits in this pass rush? Bud Dupree is now sitting in the middle of an uncomfortable possibility, the kind that does not look huge at first glance, but says a lot about where this roster is going. The veteran missed voluntary OTAs. The Chargers have already gone through mandatory minicamp. Akeem Mesidor arrived through the draft. Kyle Kennard is back on the radar. Khalil Mack remains a respected presence. Tuli is the absolute priority, and suddenly one question is hanging in the hallway. Where exactly does Dupree fit in this rotation? The read floating around is that Los Angeles could end up cutting the veteran before the 2026 campaign. And I know some fans see 61 career sacks and think, slow down, experience never hurts. I agree to a point. Pass rush is one area where depth saves games, especially after losing Jesse Minter and trying to stabilize a defense with Chris O'Leary. But experience only matters if it fits the plan, the cost, the energy of the roster, and the real competition of training camp. An old name cannot turn into a reserved seat, not right now. Dupree is 33, headed toward free agency in 2027, and the contract detail makes this tricky. The Chargers extended his deal last year, with a bonus triggering this offseason. If this were an easy decision, maybe it already would have happened. But the NFL lives in these gray areas. Sometimes a team keeps the veteran around to see the body on the field, measure the burst, test the role, and compare him to the young guys. But when the player does not show up for voluntary work, even with no formal obligation, the behind-the-scenes read changes. It does not convict anybody, but it does raise eyebrows. And I'll say it straight, if the Chargers are building this defense around Tuli, Derwin, Mesidor, and a younger rotation, they cannot be scared to make a hard decision. Bud Dupree could still help some contender in a situational package. Maybe a team that needs edge help looks at him later. But for Los Angeles, this is not about respecting the resume. It is about snaps, future, and urgency. If Dupree stays, he has to win a role on the field. If he leaves, the message is obvious. This defense is turning the page, and anyone who does not accelerate with it could get left out of the plan. All this talk about defense, cuts, rotation, and contracts only matters if the other side of the ball finally becomes what the Chargers have been promising for years. Because with Justin Herbert, the standard is different. You cannot look at that quarterback like he is just another good player trying to carry a nice little franchise. Herbert is elite talent, rare arm, franchise quarterback body, and the frustrating part, for anybody watching every Sunday, is knowing how many times the environment around him has not matched the player. That is why Mike McDaniel's arrival changes the entire feel of the offense. Greg Roman is out, McDaniel is in as offensive coordinator, and the first minicamp read already came with the kind of tone that makes the AFC uncomfortable. He said things are very good, that you can feel the athlete you are dealing with, and that he already had a sense of how extremely hard Herbert works. Fine. Any coach can say that in June. But the line that matters came after. McDaniel pointed out that Herbert is doing the footwork to master the system, and that it will create positive consequences in how he throws and how the ball gets to the eligible receivers. That part is not decoration. Footwork in a McDaniel offense is a weapon. It is timing. It is manipulating windows. It is forcing the defense to declare before it is ready. It is marrying motion, play action, route angles, protection, and release before the pass rusher gets into the quarterback's chest. When Herbert masters that, the offense stops depending only on hero ball and starts operating like a machine. And man, if the Chargers finally give Herbert a real machine, the conversation jumps a level. Harbaugh already sounds confident in the receiver group. The line has been reinforced. The run game has more pieces. David Njoku, Charlie Kolar, Alec Ingold, Keaton Mitchell, Cole Strange, Tyler Biadasz, all of that feels like part of an attempt to build an ecosystem, not just stack names. McDaniel does not need to turn Herbert into a different quarterback. He needs to unleash what is already there, with rhythm, protection, and easier answers. The point the doubters do not want to face is this. If Herbert sharpens the mechanical details inside a smarter system, the Chargers are not just an interesting team. They become a real threat, the kind that walks into January looking like a problem. Then comes the part that might sound over the top if you skim it, but inside an offensive room, it carries real weight. Mike McDaniel looked at Omarion Hampton and saw traits that reminded him of Terrell Davis. That is not light. Davis was not just some good running back from old highlights. He had a devastating start to his career in Denver, went over 2,000 yards in 1998, won titles, individual awards, Super Bowls, and ended up in the Hall of Fame. So when an offensive coordinator puts that kind of comparison in the air, he is not just giving a compliment, he is putting an expectation inside the building. Hampton heard it and handled it the right way. He admitted he needs to watch more Davis film, but he also made it clear that he really likes McDaniel's scheme. That is the part that gets me excited, because we are not talking about just any system. McDaniel already showed in Miami that he knows how to create space for explosive running backs, with Devon Achane turning into a ridiculous threat when he got angles, motion, and rhythm. Now picture that type of structure in Los Angeles, with Herbert forcing defenses to respect the pass, with formations that mess with linebackers, with a run game that does not have to slam into a wall every time. Hampton had 545 yards on 124 carries and 4 touchdowns in 9 games last season. Injuries cut off his momentum, limited the production, and kept him from becoming that steady engine. But the talent is there. Size, burst, contact, patience to find the crease. And I'm telling you, Bolt Nation knows the difference between empty hype and a real tool. Hampton has real tools. What he needs now is availability, detail, and a role that lets him feel like a centerpiece, not an accessory. The most interesting part is how this story connects with everything before it. If Tuli represents the defensive foundation, if Dupree shows the rotation getting younger, if Herbert is refining the offense with McDaniel, Hampton can be the physical multiplier that changes the whole Sunday. Because when the Chargers run the ball well, Herbert does not have to carry every third down like a national emergency. The opposing defense hesitates. Play action gets nasty. The clock becomes an ally. Bolt meter in the comments. From 0 to 10, how much do you believe Hampton can explode in this system? Because if that comparison is not just minicamp motivation, Los Angeles may have found the piece that turns offensive promise into real impact. So the picture of the day is this. The Chargers are not searching for an identity. They are choosing which pieces deserve to carry it. Tuli has to be paid like a foundation. Dupree could become the cut that shows a younger defense taking shape. Herbert with McDaniel feels like the kind of partnership that scares defensive coordinators before week 1 even arrives. And Hampton, if he stays healthy, could give the offense the punch it has been missing. I agree with anyone who says potential alone is not enough. But I'll say this too. This roster is starting to look more serious. If you agree Los Angeles has to turn this into wins now, subscribe to the channel. Bolt up!